I like the words from Matthew's Gospel, spoken from the lips of Jesus. For whoever does the will of my Father who is in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. And this is similar to some earlier words spoken by Jesus. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. The emphasis here seems to be on doing, not merely speaking, but doing the will of God. I was thinking about these words and reflecting on them as I was thinking of what it means to be firstly a Christian and then secondly a Methodist minister. How true it is that some people, myself included, it has to be said, find that doing comes at the very top of the list of priorities, at the top of the agenda. This doing, this being active, filling each moment of every day with activity, is how it has been for as long as I can remember, really. And even now, as lockdown eases, there is an increasing number of meetings by, dare I say it, Zoom, or perhaps by FaceTime or some other communication platform. And I often feel like this, frazzled and exhausted, or an expectation that I really put on myself, I admit it, to be the perfect super minister. Everyone knows we're not, and everyone definitely knows that I'm not. You know, of course, my views on meetings. When God first called me into ministry, many years ago now, I always felt that it was a call to the ministry of word and sacrament and pastoral care, to a ministry of preaching the gospel, of sharing the sacraments, presiding at the Lord's table for Holy Communion, of conducting baptisms and weddings and funerals, and offering pastoral care. Where did all these meetings come into it? There was never, in my mind, an assumption that there would be meetings to attend and even to chair as well. All these pesky meetings getting in the way of what I really have felt called to do. Some wonderful meetings, of course, but some perhaps, dare I say it, less so. And in some ways it does play into that temptation and that draw to be busy, to be active. Certainly Methodists like to be busy. Always a full agenda of meetings and activities. And I do wonder sometimes whether some ministers think that the transformation of the world is proportionate to the number of church councils that they chair. It can certainly be very difficult and busy, and unfortunately can lead to burnout, clergy burnout, which is very serious, and you can end up with a minister who is of no use to anybody, to himself, to his family, to his friends, and certainly to the church. And the problems seem to begin where there is this gap that is developed between doing and being. What does it mean to do the will of God? And what does it mean to be in relationship with God? There is sometimes an inconsistency, a gap between the two. Or we can spend so much time just doing that we have no time to be. I wonder if lockdown has possibly produced a bit more time to be. And I say that with a huge caveat, massive caveat. Because for so many people, for those frontline workers, for NHS workers, teachers, delivery workers, people working in social care, and lots of other people as well, for them there has been no let-up at all. There just hasn't been the time to be. But even with all that, I wonder if God is saying something to us as a church in these times and as the people of God. That the being is actually more important than the doing. The fact that we have had far fewer church meetings, church councils, for example, and property committees, and dare I say it, circuit meetings as well. That's happened, but somehow, amazingly, the church hasn't fallen apart. What's all that about? That somehow, in fact, in some ways we have been flourishing as a church. For the church is not primarily the building. The church, or ecclesia in Greek, is both a local gathering of people and also the whole body of Christ, the whole body of people. The local congregation and the whole body of the faithful. And not only those who are alive, but those who have gone before us too. We are all ecclesia, the people of God. So the church is where people are. And dare I say it, the lack of those formal meetings has perhaps given us just possibly more space to be, to pray, to think, to reflect. Being, of course, isn't just nothingness. Being isn't just about sitting around and doing nothing at all. Being is, in some ways, quite an active thing. It is actively reflecting and considering the world and our community, other people and ourselves. Being is opening our minds and our hearts to the presence of God. Being is about choosing not to be driven by all those external events and outward circumstances, and feeling, as we sometimes are, bounced from one thing to another, one event to another, one meeting to another. And instead to allow God to gently lead and guide and encourage and affirm and sustain us. A good balance to doing is found in the ancient words of Leviticus. For I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves therefore and be holy, for I am holy. May we all learn the art of holiness, the art of simply being with God, of cultivating our prayer life, and then, and only then, getting on with the work. Be still. Be still and know. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I am God.